I stood there in my carefully chosen dress, heart pounding, as the usher led me down the aisle at my daughter's wedding. The venue was stunning, flowers everywhere, guests in elegant attire, laughter filling the air. But when he pointed to my seat, my world shattered. It was at the very back, tucked away in a corner right next to the overflowing trash bins. The smell hit me first, then the humiliation. Me, the mother of the bride, relegated to the garbage like yesterday's news. Tears stung my eyes as whispers rippled through the crowd. In that moment, I knew I couldn't stay silent. I turned and walked out, leaving everyone shocked. But that was just the beginning of my story. Hi everyone, my name is Evelyn, and if you're watching this, you probably know what it's like to pour your heart into your family, only to feel invisible. Let me take you back to where it all started. I was born in a small town in Ohio, the kind where everyone knows your business. My parents were hardworking folks. Dad a mechanic, Mom a school teacher. They taught me the value of family above all else. Blood is thicker than water, Mom would say, hugging me tight after a long day. I met my husband Tom in high school. He was the quarterback. I was the cheerleader. Classic story, right? We got married young, at 19, and soon after, our daughter Sarah came along. She was our everything, a bundle of joy with curly hair and big blue eyes just like mine. Tom worked as an accountant, and I stayed home to raise Sarah, baking cookies for her school events, driving her to dance classes, and being there for every scraped knee and heartbreak. Those early years were magical. Sarah and I were inseparable. We'd spend afternoons in the park, her little hand in mine, talking about dreams. "Mommy, when I grow up, I want to be just like you," she'd say, and my heart would melt. Tom was the provider, steady and loving, but it was Sarah and me against the world. As she grew, I encouraged her independence: piano lessons, soccer teams, college applications. I sacrificed a lot. I put my own dreams of becoming a nurse on hold to make sure she had every opportunity. But life throws curveballs. When Sarah was 15, Tom passed away suddenly from a heart attack. It devastated us. I remember holding Sarah as we both sobbed on the kitchen floor. "We'll get through this together," I whispered, though I felt like I was drowning. I went back to work as a receptionist at a local clinic, scraping by to keep our home. Sarah threw herself into studies, graduating top of her class and landing a scholarship to a university in Chicago. I was so proud, waving goodbye as she drove off, tears streaming down my face. Years passed, and Sarah built a life in the city. She became a successful marketing executive, confident and ambitious. That's where she met her fiancé, Marcus. He came from money. His family owned a chain of restaurants. At first, I was thrilled. Marcus seemed charming, taking Sarah on fancy trips and spoiling her. When they got engaged, I dreamed of helping plan the wedding, just like Mom did for me. But subtle shifts started happening. Sarah called less often. When she did, it was rushed: work, this, Marcus, that. I visited once, and Marcus's parents, the Harringtons, hosted a dinner. They were polite but distant, eyeing my simple clothes like I didn't belong. "Evelyn, how quaint your town must be, Mrs. Senier," Harrington said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I brushed it off, focusing on Sarah's happiness. As wedding plans ramped up, I offered ideas. Maybe incorporate Tom's favorite flowers or a family recipe at the reception. But Sarah dismissed them. "Mom, the Harringtons have a planner. It's all handled." I felt a pang but told myself it was her day. Little did I know, this was just the calm before the storm. The real hurt was coming, building like dark clouds on the horizon. As the wedding drew closer, I started noticing cracks in my relationship with Sarah. It wasn't just her busyness, it felt like she was pulling away. I'd call to check in, but she'd let it go to voicemail, texting back hours later with, "Sorry Mom, crazy day." I told myself it was the stress of planning a wedding, especially one funded by the Harringtons, who seemed to have an opinion on everything. But deep down, I felt a knot tightening in my chest. One evening, about 6 months before the wedding, I drove to Chicago to surprise Sarah with her favorite homemade lasagna. I hadn't seen her in months, and I missed her laugh, her stories. When I arrived at her sleek downtown apartment, Marcus answered the door. "Oh, Evelyn," he said, his smile tight. "Didn't know you were coming." Sarah appeared behind him, looking flustered in a silk blouse and heels, like she'd just stepped out of a boardroom. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she asked, not unkindly, but there was an edge to her voice. I held up the lasagna dish, forcing a smile. "Thought you could use a taste of home." We sat down to eat, but the vibe was off. Marcus kept checking his phone, and Sarah barely touched the food. "This is nice," she said, poking at the cheese. "But we're trying to eat lighter these days," I nodded, swallowing the sting. Then came the guest list drama. I'd assumed I'd have a say in inviting a few family members. My sister, some cousins, people who'd known Sarah since she was a baby. But when I sent Sarah a list, she called me the next day, sounding irritated. "Mom, the venue has a strict limit. The Harringtons already invited their business associates. We can't fit everyone." I was stunned. "Not even Aunt Linda?" "She changed your diapers, Sarah." She sighed. "I'll see what I can do, but it's complicated." Complicated. That word started popping up a lot. When I asked about the rehearsal dinner, Sarah said it was handled. When I offered to host a bridal shower in Ohio, she said, "The Harringtons' friends are throwing one in Chicago." Each time, I felt pushed further to the sidelines. I tried to stay positive, reminding myself this was her big day. But then came the dress shopping incident. Sarah invited me to join her and Mrs. Harrington at a high-end bridal boutique. I was thrilled, thinking we'd have a mother-daughter moment. But when I arrived, the air was thick with tension. Mrs. Harrington dominated the appointment, suggesting gowns that cost more than my car. When I pointed out a simpler dress that reminded me of Sarah's childhood taste, Mrs. Harrington chuckled. "Oh, Evelyn, that's a bit dated, don't you think?" Sarah didn't defend me, she just looked away. I left the boutique early, claiming a headache, but really my heart was breaking. By the time the wedding invitations arrived, I noticed my name wasn't listed as the mother of the bride, just a generic, together with their families. It felt like I was being erased. I called Sarah, my voice shaking. "Honey, am I even part of this wedding?" She paused, then said, "Mom, don't make this harder than it is." That's when I knew something was deeply wrong, but I had no idea how much worse it would get. The wedding was just weeks away, and I was clinging to hope like a lifeline. I'd saved up for months to buy a beautiful mother-of-the-bride dress, soft blue chiffon that made me feel elegant, something Tom would have loved. I imagined walking down the aisle with pride, arm in arm with Sarah, but reality was about to slap me hard. It started with a phone call from Sarah. "Mom, we need to talk about the seating chart," she said, her voice clipped. I was in my kitchen, stirring tea, thinking this was my chance to feel involved. "Sure, honey. Where do you want me? Front row, right?" There was a long pause. "Actually, the Harringtons have a lot of VIP guests. Marcus's family is huge. We're thinking, maybe the second row for you?" My hand froze on the spoon. "Second row?" "Sarah, I'm your mother, the only parent you have left." She sighed. "Mom, it's not a big deal, it's just seating." But it was a big deal. It felt like a demotion. I hung up, tears blurring my vision, but I pushed it down. Maybe I was overreacting. Then came the rehearsal. I drove the 4 hours to Chicago, excited despite everything. When I arrived at the upscale venue, a grand hall with crystal chandeliers, Mrs. Simber Harrington greeted me with air kisses. "Evelyn, so glad you could make it," she said, as if I were a distant relative. During the walkthrough, the wedding planner directed everyone. Sarah and Marcus practiced their vows, looking so in love. I stood off to the side, waiting for my cue. "Mother of the bride," the planner called finally. But as I stepped forward, Mrs. Harrington interrupted. "Oh, wait, Evelyn, you'll be escorted separately. We have Marcus's uncle walking Sarah down the aisle." My heart stopped. "What?" I whispered, turning to Sarah. She avoided my eyes. "Mom," Uncle Richard offered, "he's like a father to Marcus." Like a father? Tom was her father, the man who held her first, who taught her to ride a bike. I felt the room spin. Sarah, this was supposed to be our moment. To honor your dad. She pulled me aside, whispering harshly, Mom, stop. You're embarrassing me. The Harringtons are paying for everything. This is how it has to be. Embarrassing her? Me, who'd given up everything for her. The betrayal cut deep. That night, at the rehearsal dinner, I sat at a table with strangers while Sarah laughed with the Harringtons. Marcus's mother toasted to our new family, not once mentioning me. I excused myself early, driving home in silence, sobs choking me. How had my daughter become a stranger? But the ultimate disrespect was yet to come on the wedding day itself, a moment that would push me to my breaking point. The days leading up to the wedding were a blur of anxiety and forced smiles. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, replaying that rehearsal in my head, the way Sarah had dismissed me like I was an inconvenience. I tried to reach out one last time, sending her a text. Honey, can we talk? I just want to make sure we're okay. Her reply came hours later. Mom, everything's fine. See you at the wedding. Fine. That word echoed like a hollow promise. I arrived in Chicago the day before, checking into a modest hotel since no one offered me a spot at the Harringtons' estate. That evening, there was a pre-wedding cocktail party. I dressed up, hoping to blend in, but as soon as I walked in, I felt like an outsider. Guests mingled in designer outfits, sipping champagne while I clutched a glass of water. Sarah spotted me and waved briefly before turning back to her friends. Marcus's father pulled her aside for photos with the family, and I wasn't included. Then Mrs. Harrington approached, her pearls gleaming under the lights. Evelyn, dear, I hope you're enjoying yourself, she said, her tone dripping with false sweetness. I nodded but couldn't hold back. Actually, I wanted to ask about the seating. Sarah mentioned second row. She waved a hand dismissively. Oh, that's all sorted. Don't worry your head about it. Her words stung like a slap. Don't worry, as if my feelings didn't matter. That night, back in my room, I called my sister Linda for support. Evie, this isn't right, she said, her voice fierce. You've given that girl everything. Stand up for yourself, I cried into the phone, admitting how lost I felt. What if I lose her forever? Linda sighed. You might if you don't fight for your place. Wedding day dawned bright and sunny, mocking my inner turmoil. I got ready alone, applying makeup with shaky hands, whispering to Tom's photo, help me through this. At the venue, a luxurious garden estate, cars lined up with valets bustling. I handed over my invitation, and the usher, a young man in a crisp suit, checked his list. Right this way, ma'am. He led me past the front rows, filled with the Harringtons' elite circle business tycoons, socialites, past the second row even. My stomach dropped as we kept going, to the very back. There, in the corner, was a lone chair squeezed between a service door and the trash bins, already piled with setup debris. The odor of wilted flowers and discarded wrappers wafted up. Here you are, he said cheerfully, oblivious. I stood frozen, guests turning to stare. Whispers started. Is that the mother? Why is she back there? Humiliation burned through me like fire. This wasn't just disrespect, it was deliberate cruelty. Sarah must have known. Marcus, too. The Harringtons had orchestrated this to erase me completely. My hands trembled as I sat for a moment, fighting tears. But then something snapped. I couldn't do this. Not anymore. I rose, smoothed my dress, and walked toward the exit, heads turning in confusion. The tension was electric. Would I really leave? But as I reached the door, Sarah's voice called out, sharp and urgent. Mom? What are you doing? I paused at the door, the garden venue falling silent as all eyes turned to me. Sarah's voice cut through the hush. Mom, what are you doing? She hurried over, her white gown swishing, Marcus trailing behind with a confused frown. The Harringtons looked on from their front row seats, Mrs. Harrington's face twisted in disapproval. I turned to face my daughter, the woman I'd raised, now staring at me like I was the problem. Sarah, how could you? I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. A seat by the trash? After everything? Gasps rippled through the guests. Sarah's cheeks flushed. Mom, it's not like that. We had to rearrange last minute. Please, just sit down. But I shook my head. No, this isn't about a seat. It's about respect, about forgetting where you came from. Marcus stepped forward, his voice low. Evelyn, let's not make a scene. A scene? That's when I noticed the photographer snapping away discreetly, probably for their perfect social media album. But I wasn't done. I walked out, the fresh air hitting me like a wake-up call. My phone buzzed immediately. Text from Sarah, Mom, come back, and from Linda, you did the right thing. I drove to a nearby cafe, ordering coffee with trembling hands, replaying it all. That's when the twist hit me. A call from an unknown number. It was Sarah's old college roommate Jenny, someone I'd kept in touch with over the years. Evelyn, I saw what happened on a live stream a guest posted. I'm so sorry. You need to know the truth. My heart raced. What truth? Jenny hesitated. Sarah's been lying to the Harringtons about you. She told them you abandoned her after Tom died, that you were unstable. That's why they've been sidelining you. Marcus's mom even bragged about it at the bridal shower, said they were saving Sarah from her trashy roots. I felt like I'd been punched. Abandoned her? Unstable? I'd worked 2 jobs to pay for her tuition, skipped meals so she could have extras. And trashy roots? That explained the trash bin seat, a cruel joke at my expense. Jenny continued, I overheard Sarah agreeing with them. She didn't correct it. I think she's ashamed of her past, of us. Tears streamed down my face as pieces fell into place. The dismissed ideas, the excluded family, the second-row demotion. It wasn't just oversight, it was intentional erasure. But there was more. Jenny sent me screenshots from a group chat, Sarah joking with Marcus about keeping Mom in check and not letting her embarrass us. One message from Sarah. She's from the sticks. What does she know about class? My own daughter mocking me. The shock numbed me. How had I missed this? Had success changed her that much? Or had the Harringtons poisoned her against me? I sat there staring at my phone, the wedding probably starting without me. But this reveal shattered any lingering doubt. I couldn't go back, not without confronting the lies. Yet, as hurt as I was, a part of me still loved her. What would I do next? The shock from Jenny's revelations fueled a fire in me I didn't know I had. I couldn't just drive home and lick my wounds. No, this needed to end today. I turned my car around and headed back to the venue, my mind racing with every hurtful memory. The wedding ceremony must have finished by now. Guests would be at the reception. As I pulled up, valets stared, but I marched in, my blue dress now wrinkled from the drive, my makeup smudged from tears. The reception hall was alive with music and chatter tables adorned with crystal and flowers, a dance floor gleaming. Sarah was in the center, laughing with Marcus cutting the cake. When she saw me, her smile faltered. Mom, she said, setting down the knife. Heads turned, the DJ even lowered the volume. Mrs. Harrington rushed over, hissing, Evelyn, this is inappropriate. The ceremony's over. I ignored her, locking eyes with Sarah. We need to talk, now. My voice was firm, drawing more stares. Sarah glanced at Marcus, who nodded tightly. She followed me to a side room, the door clicking shut behind us. What the hell, Mom? You walk out on my wedding and now crash the reception? She snapped, crossing her arms. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots Jenny sent. This. You told them I abandoned you? That I'm unstable? Trashy roots. That's why the seat by the garbage. Her face paled, eyes widening. How did you... Jenny? That traitor? She tried to grab the phone, but I held it back. Don't deflect, Sarah. Explain why your own mother is a joke to you. She paced, her veil trailing like a ghost. You don't understand. The Harringtons, they're everything I want to be. Successful, connected. growing up in that tiny town with hand-me-downs and Dad's old truck. It was embarrassing. When Dad died, you struggled, Mom. We were poor. I had to lie a little to fit in. Lie a little? Poor. I gave you everything. Worked my fingers to the bone so you could have that scholarship, that life. And this is how you repay me? By erasing me. Tears welled in her eyes now. I didn't mean to hurt you. But Marcus's family, they judge. I just wanted to start fresh. Marcus burst in then, followed by his parents. What's going on? He demanded. I turned to him. Ask your wife why she trashed her own mother, Mrs. Harrington scoffed. Evelyn, you're being dramatic. Sarah told us about your issues. We were protecting her day. Protecting? That was the breaking point. Issues? Like loving my daughter unconditionally, unlike you, poisoning her against her roots. Sarah sobbed. Mom, please, but I wasn't backing down. You chose them over me, Sarah. Over family. If that's your fresh start, enjoy it without me. I stormed out, the room erupting in whispers. Outside, I collapsed against my car, the confrontation leaving me raw. Had I lost her forever? Or was this the wake-up call she needed? Chapter 7, Aftermath and Resolution. The drive back to Ohio was a blur, the road streaked with my tears. I kept replaying the confrontation. Sarah's tearful eyes, Marcus's stunned silence, Mrs. Harrington's smug face. My phone buzzed relentlessly, texts from Sarah, calls from Linda, but I couldn't face them yet. I needed space to breathe, to process the betrayal and the weight of walking away from my daughter's wedding. When I got home, I collapsed onto the couch, staring at a photo of Sarah and me from her 5th birthday, both of us laughing with cake on our faces. Where had that girl gone? The next morning, I woke to a voicemail from Sarah, her voice shaky. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how far it went. Please call me. I didn't. Not yet. I needed to understand my own heart first. Linda came over, bringing coffee and her no-nonsense attitude. Evie, you stood up for yourself. That took guts, she said, hugging me. But Sarah's still your kid. Don't shut her out forever. Her words stuck with me, softening the edges of my anger. Days turned into weeks. The Harringtons sent a cold email accusing me of ruining the wedding's vibe. I didn't respond. But Sarah kept reaching out, texts, emails, even a handwritten letter. In it, she admitted she'd been swept up in Marcus's world, desperate to fit in. I thought I had to be someone else to deserve this life, she wrote. I was wrong, Mom. I hurt you, and I hate myself for it. Reading those words cracked my resolve. She was still my daughter, flawed but human. I agreed to meet her in Chicago a month later. We sat in a quiet diner, just the two of us. She looked different, less polished, more like the Sarah I remembered. I told Marcus everything, she said, twisting her wedding ring nervously. How I lied about you, how I let his family disrespect you. He was shocked. We're in counseling now, trying to fix things. I nodded, my throat tight. And the Harringtons? She sighed. I set boundaries. Told them if they can't respect you, they don't get me. That was a start. I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. Sarah, I love you, but you broke my heart. I need time to trust you again. She nodded, tears falling. I'll earn it back, Mom. I promise. We talked for hours about Tom, about our past, about how she'd lost herself in the glitz of her new life. It wasn't a full fix, but it was a step. I drove home feeling lighter, like a weight had lifted, even if scars remained. Over the next months, Sarah kept her word. She called regularly, visited Ohio, even brought Marcus, who apologized sincerely. We started rebuilding slowly. The Harringtons stayed distant, but that was fine by me. I'd reclaimed my place in Sarah's life, not by force, but by standing up for my worth. Chapter 8, Reflection and Closing Moral. It's been a year since Sarah's wedding, and I'm sitting in my Ohio kitchen, sipping tea, a photo of us from her recent visit framed on the counter. We're smiling in it, arms around each other at the park where we used to play. Looking back, that wedding day feels like a distant storm, painful, but it cleared the air. I've had time to reflect on what happened, and I want to share the lessons I've learned, because if my story resonates with even one of you, it's worth telling. After our diner meeting, Sarah and I kept working on our relationship. It wasn't easy. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild, like piecing together a shattered vase. She called to share small moments, cooking one of my recipes or standing up to Mrs. Ensign Harrington when she made a snide remark. Each call felt like a stitch pulling us closer. Marcus, to his credit, stepped up too. He invited me to dinner at their place, where he apologized again, admitting he'd been blind to his family's elitism. "You're Sarah's rock, Evelyn," he said. "We need you." Those words meant more than he knew. I've thought a lot about why Sarah drifted so far. She was chasing a version of success that wasn't hers, polished, perfect, detached from her roots. The Harringtons' world dazzled her, but it came at a cost: me, her past, her truth. I don't blame her entirely. It's easy to lose yourself when you're trying to belong, especially in a world that measures worth by wealth and status. But I also learned I had a role in this. I'd poured so much into being her mom that I forgot to be Evelyn, the woman with her own dreams, her own strength. Walking out of that wedding was the hardest thing I've ever done. It wasn't just about the trash bin seat, it was about refusing to be invisible. Standing up for myself didn't just shock Sarah. It reminded me of my own value. And that's the lesson I want to leave you with. Never let anyone, even those you love most, make you feel like you don't matter. Your worth isn't tied to where you sit, what you wear, or how much money you have. It's in the love you give, the sacrifices you make, the courage to demand respect. For you watching, maybe it's not a wedding seat, but a job, a friendship, a family that makes you feel small. Don't stay silent. Speak up, even if your voice shakes. Walk away if you must. You might lose something in the moment, but you'll gain something greater yourself. Sarah and I aren't perfect, but we're honest now. We're rebuilding on truth, not lies. And if I can find my way back to my daughter after all that, you can find your way too. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, share it. Let's remind each other we're never alone in this fight for respect.